Hello, my name is Putri Angelica and I came from group 1. So here I'm gonna explain about my heat transfer experiment. So this video is basically gonna talk about the things required to be prepared before the experiment, the assembly process, the experiment itself, the analysis of the experiment, the conclusion, and also the feedback of the class. So first I'm gonna tell you the purpose of this experiment. So the purpose of this experiment is to evaluate the relation between velocity, in this case is air constant velocity, to the rate of temperature change in the steel plate. So things needed to perform the experiment is first steel plate, the second one is the electric stove or heater. In this case I'm using the electric stove, and then thermocouples. In this experiment I'm using two thermocouple, and then paper and tape. So paper and tape is used to make the wind tunnel later, and the last but not least is fan to provide a constant air velocity. So the first step is to make the wind tunnel from the paper and the tape in the size of the diameter of the fan itself, and the fan later will provide a constant air velocity. So inside the wind tunnel we're gonna put the electric stove with the steel plate on top of it, and the assembly is done, the setup is done. So to perform the experiment, so there will be three different process of experiment, three different condition of experiment. So the condition set basically with the three different speed of air velocity. So there will be three different air velocity, but the experiment step is just basically same. So we're just gonna turn on the electric stove and heat the steel plate specimen, and then we're gonna measure the temperature in the point in the tip in the edge where it nearer to the fan, and in the point of in the edge where it's further from the fan. And we're gonna evaluate the data with three different kind of velocity, and we're gonna relate the data of rate of temperature change with the air velocity from the fan. So from this experiment we expect that we can analyze the effect of velocity in the rate of temperature change of the steel plate. So let's just get to the experiment. So from the experiment that we have performed and the data that I have shown you before, we can see that the faster air velocity provide a faster rate of temperature change. So from this experiment, we can see that three different air velocity with a different point of the measurement result in different result of the rate of temperature change. So the changes might be very little, but we can still see that it proves the concept of faster velocity will lead to the higher rate of temperature change. Therefore, there might be some errors in this experiment because in the last air velocity, we can see that the data is not really good. So this might be happen since the thermocouple is a bit of may provide a little bit of error since it displays a smaller value than the other temperature than the other thermocouples. And then another reason is because we cannot provide a same initial temperature along along the steel plates, so that there might be some errors in the experiment because of that. So in conclusion, we can conclude from the experiment that actually faster air velocity results in fast the higher rate of temperature change. However, this experiment is still having some errors due to the reasons of thermocouple errors, and we cannot really provide the same initial condition for these three different experiments with three different air velocity. So my feedback for this experiment is actually this I really like this experiment because this is a very simple experiment, but it still proves the concept of heat transfer. But it is really hard to provide a same initial condition for all three experiments. Therefore, this experiment is still having some errors. So really enjoy the process of experiment, and I will try to improve my skills of assemble the things to set up. So thank you very much for the concept that I learned from these classes, and thank you very much for listening to me in this video.